All right, you've done the research. Now you've had the procedure. You've invested the money. You get home, you look in the mirror, and you're ready for that new hairline to change your life. And then 2 weeks later, all that hair that just got transplanted falls out. Panic sets in. You think the surgery failed. You think you're the one guy it didn't work for. Look, I'm going to be straight with you. Hair restoration, it is a test of patience. It's not like a haircut where results are immediate. It's more like planting a garden in the Idaho high desert. There's a lot happening under the surface long before you see that first sprout. So today I'm going to walk you through the full 12-month timeline post hair transplant, from the scabs and crusts of week 1 to the full density 1 or 2 years later. So you know exactly what's normal and when it's time to celebrate. All right, let's talk about the first 30 days after a hair transplant. We call this the ugly duckling phase, especially the earlier on in that first 30-day period. In the first week, you're going to have some redness, some swelling, and little crusts around all the grafts that we just transplanted. It looks a little bit like you walk through a thorn brush. And by day 10, those scabs should be gone. Okay? But then around week 3, something happens that freaks everyone out. The shed. The hair follicles that we transplanted, they will survive, but because they were stressed out during the transplant, they kick the hair out. And all that hair we just transplanted starts the shedding process. And you'll see them in the sink or on your pillow. And at this point, if your provider's done a good job, you're not panicking because you're expecting this to happen. Listen, you didn't lose the graft. It just went dormant for a little while. Think of it like a plant being moved to a new pot. The leaves might wither and drop. The plant gets stressed out a little bit, but the root, that hair follicle, it's alive and well under the soil. And what's it doing? It's establishing new blood supply. Okay, this is a biological reset. The old hair has to leave so the new permanent hair can grow in. All right, it's just a normal process of a hair transplant. And honestly, this is the hardest part of the journey for my patients. Between month 2 and month around 4, you look pretty much the same like you did before the surgery even started. Maybe even a little thinner because of something called temporary shock loss of the existing hair around the surgical sites. Sometimes we'll aggravate that tissue, and an existing hair will go through the same cycle. It'll get stressed out, it'll kick out the hair and regrow a new one. So this is where my patients, they often start questioning everything. You're checking the mirror every morning with the flashlight, like trying to find that new hair popping up, right? But what's really important is what's happening under the skin. The follicles at this stage of the game, around that 3 to 4 month mark, they're finally waking up. They're starting to produce hair. And if you see this hair popping up, you are winning. It's the first sign that that tree has taken root in your garden, all right? You won't see much density yet, but the foundation is being laid. This is where you stay the course with your tier 1 and tier 2 treatments, right? Medical management, stimulation therapy, blocking the hormone. Those are the drugs and topicals that we're going to prescribe to keep the environment healthy, to maximize the surgical outcomes. All right, so now we're starting to see hair grow. And somewhere around month 5 or 6, the pop happens. This is when those hairs that are just starting to pop up, they start to thicken and get some pigment. And you'll notice the hairline that you and I, before the procedure that we designed, it finally becomes visible. It's not full yet, but man, we're getting close. And you're going to start looking really good at this stage of the game. Now, around month 8 or 9, we usually see around 70 to 80% of the total growth that we're going to expect. Okay. The texture might be a little wiry or different from your other hair because that follicle is trying to figure some stuff out. It's maturing. But as it goes through a few more growth cycles, that hair is going to start to soften and blend perfectly with the rest of your hair. At the 1 year mark, this is when we do the final reveal. This is where most patients have the full density that was established from the transplant becomes apparent. The hair has matured, the scalp is completely healed, and you finally have the result you paid for. Okay. Now, one little caveat here. I have had several patients that I've done transplants on that take a little over a year to get to full effect, sometimes a year and a half. 90% of patients at a year, they've got what they've got. But if you're not one of those, we might have to wait a few more months to get that full, wow, awesome filling. Okay. Now, for some guys, especially if we worked on, areas like the crown, we might actually see continued improvement all the way up to month 18. Okay, the crown has less blood flow than the front, so it's a bit slower to bloom and grow. All right. The biggest mistake I see men make is comparing their month 3 mirror to someone else's month 12 Instagram photo. You cannot rush biology. You can have the best surgeon in the world, but your body still needs 365 days to do its job. All right. So if you're in that ugly duckling phase right now and you're worried, or if you're just starting to look into this and want to know, or if you even have the patience for it, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below asking any of your hair questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay. And look, the 12-month timeline only works if you start with a healthy graft with a solid plan. If you want to see what that plan looks like for your specific type of hair loss, head over to Mountain Man Hair. We have a breakdown of the 3 tiers of restoration that you can look at and make sure you're a good candidate before you even start the clock. Okay? Be patient with your progress, guys. Getting it right takes time. Great things take time. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.